It's the tiny details that make up the overall scene and make it look real. Tiny details that most people just take for granted. Even when you're just walking down a street like Times Square, you notice all this stuff, but something like a traffic light you just take for granted. But when you're recreating a scene, traffic light can be very crucial to make it look right. Like right there, the little stop and go thing. Now, there's a lot of things going on there. Let's go in there and see what's actually happening. So right here we got a blank file to which I have just imported the paths that make up those two little symbols. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the background, I'm going to fill it with a dark tone. Let's just say a deep gray like this. I'll just go ahead and fill it with that color. So we'll fill it with the foreground color, and there it is. So now in a layer on top of this, I'm going to start to create those symbols. Now, there's two of them. You can see them. There's two of them right there. There's the stop and the go. They both have different colors. They're going to be handled separately. Again, each one is going to have a different set of styles that are going to make it come to life. So what we're going to do is, in that first layer, we're going to call it the stop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those particular paths right there. I just used my path selection tool and I just did a little marquee right across them to select all of those paths. I'm going to pick a color that's going to give me the look that I want. I'm going to pick a nice kind of an orangey color, like say that one right there. Click OK. And in that layer, I'm going to take that path and fill it. There we go. So now these are off in this particular situation. So we're going to select those and we're going to find a different color, kind of a light grayish tone like that. Because these are going to be little tubes that are unlit. I click OK. And in a second layer on top of this, we'll call Go. There we go. Got to be in a layer. And then we just go ahead and fill those with that gray. So there we have the two basic shapes which make up the stop and go sign. Now let's make them come to life. So I'm going to go in there, and the ones on the left, the stop sign, is lit up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the stop sign and double click on it to bring up the layer styles, which is going to allow me to go in there and make these things look like they are in fact lit. So we need to have a little dimension to them. So what I'm going to do is give them a little inner glow. And the inner glow right there, you see it's got that nice little yellow tone. Well, I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that to that same orange, but a different version of it, a little darker like that. Now, you're not seeing anything there because being a glow, it's set to screen. It's a darker tone, so I'm going to change it to multiply. So now I got this little edge right in there, see? So I'm going to bring up the opacity a little, so I got this little tiny edge, which I can make a little bigger, right inside the bulbs. Then I'm going to give them a little outer glow. And the outer glow is going to make them look like they're lit. So I'm going to make that a little bigger. There we go. And I'm going to change that color. Change it to an orange, say about like that, and click OK. And that's the stop portion of our sign. Now, the bulbs that are unlit, that's these over here. All right, so let's go in there and work on those. That's the go. Now, the go sign is not going to have any kind of a glow to it, but it is going to reflect the tones that are on this side, the ones that are lit. It's also going to reflect some of the street light. So right now we can see that that gray is a little too light. So I might want to go in there and darken it a little bit. So I'm going to go into my adjustments and I'll go into something like hue saturation and just kind of darken them a little bit. That looks about right. It's nighttime and they're just unlit, about like that. That looks good. So I'm going to go into my layer styles for that layer. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give it a little bevel and emboss. And I want the light to be coming from this direction. So I'm going to bring it right there. There's my highlight right there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that they're a little more pronounced and soften them up a little. Now the highlight, it's really reflecting these tones here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the white and pick that orangey tone right there. You see it? It just picked up that nice little orange tone right in there. Click OK. Now the dark tone on this side is actually picking up some of the street light. So instead of the black, I'm going to pick another tone. Let's just say we pick more of a yellowish tone like this right here, which disappeared because being a shadow, it's set to multiply. So I'm going to set that to screen as well. So there we got those lights being picked up from that side, which I'm going to bring down the opacity on that just a little right there like that. Okay, so now the highlights, let's push them up a little bit. That's those orangey tones on that one side. So I click OK. And we have that. Now, the thing is that, you see these? They shouldn't be seeing that same highlight as much as these guys right here. So what we need to do is to eliminate the orange highlight on these edges of our little sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that bevel and emboss and separate them from the layer. By coming up to layer, layer styles, and say create layer. And now you can see that the inner glow and the inner shadow have been separated. So there's that orange. So what I'm going to do with the orange one is I'm going to give it a mask. And in the mask, I'm going to start to hide the ones that I don't want. Let's bring up the opacity on the brush a little bit, and we can make it a little smaller. I'm just going to go in there, and you can see how I'm eliminating those tones in certain areas where I don't want them. I'm going to bring down the opacity so I could just lighten slightly some of these other ones on this side here. So I just now have just the highlights exactly on the side that I want them, where they're picking up this light here. And then on this side, they're just picking up the street light. And there you can see that we have the stop and go sign.